U.S. senators block sale of fighter jets to Nigeria over human rights concern. 2 U.S. senators have written to the Secretary of State not to sell fighter jets to Nigeria. They claimed issue of human rights concern was a reason for this blockade. Nigeria was accused of not following court orders in the detention of El-Zakzaky. The Nigerian government has suffered a setback in its fight against terrorism as the United States has been urged not to sell fighter jets to Nigeria over human rights concerns. NAGE.com had reported in May that the Donald Trump-led administration had promised to sell 12 weaponized aircraft to Nigeria worth $600 million, but this might have suffered a dip as Senators Cory Booker and Rand Paul in a joint letter on Tuesday, June 8, said Nigeria must display concern for human rights first. The duo in the letter to the U.S. Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, cited the killing of Shiites by the army in early 2015 and the accidental bombing of an IDP camp as reasons why the aircrafts should not be sold to Nigeria. They noted that although the country was facing Boko Haram insurgency, failure to comply with human rights directives shows the country should not be in custody of these fighter jets. Read the letter below. We are writing to convey our concerns regarding reports that you intend to proceed with plans to sell A-29 Super Tucano light attack aircrafts, with mounted machine guns and related parts and logistical support, to help the Nigerian government combat Boko Haram. We request that before you approve this sale, you brief us on the steps Nigeria has taken to investigate and hold accountable those that have committed human rights abuses. We believe the security threats Nigeria is facing are very real, but that a sale of this nature, and at this time, is ill-advised. Boko Haram, a 5,000 to 10,000 strong insurgent force with ties to the Islamic State, will not be defeated through expanded air power alone. Despite your comments that values will not impact national security policies, we believe proceeding without any clear indications of progress from the Nigerian government on the protection of human rights and enforcement of accountability would run contrary to our national security objectives. With proper training of pilots, the sale of more sophisticated aircraft could lead to more accurate targeting of insurgents by the Nigerian Air Force and potentially a reduction of civilian casualties. But there is evidence that the Nigerian military routinely flouts the laws of war, and there remains an absence of adequate safeguards and accountability mechanisms. This means that the Tucano aircraft could be used in a manner inconsistent with international human rights and humanitarian law, and that ultimately helps to strengthen Boko Haram. Given that the Nigerian military still lacks the ability to mount a sophisticated counterinsurgency cooperation combining group and air assets, and the A-29 airframes will not be ready for delivery for at least another year at the earliest, we see no rush to complete the sale. Because this sale is an important point of leverage to encourage critical reforms necessary to defeat Boko Haram, we recommend that you require the Nigerian government to complete these steps before proceeding with the sale. Some of the important and specific benchmarks that would show progress include: progress from the authorities in Abuja on the Kaduna government's investigation into the December 2015 alleged massacre on Shiite Muslims in the northeastern town of Zaria, where at least 347 members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, a Shia Muslim group, were killed by army soldiers. Credible organizations found that the army's attack was unjustified. An investigation launched by the local Kaduna government found the general officer in command of the army to have authorized the massacre and recommended prosecution. Nearly a year after this report was published, there has been no follow-up from the federal government in Abuja. Authorities also failed to comply with a court order for the release of the movement's leader, Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife, who remain in detention without charges since December 2015. Completion of the investigation into the January 2017 attack on a displaced persons camp in Ran, northeastern Nigeria, by the Nigerian Air Force, which killed at least 236 people and injured thousands more. The government was quick to acknowledge the attack, which officials said was an accident, and agreed to undertake an investigation, but it has yet to be finalized and then made available to the public. Even if it was accidental, the Ran incident demonstrates the urgent need for safeguards and accountability. Progress on a fair investigation into the 2014 killing by the Nigerian security forces of over 600 people, on the heels of Boko Haram's attack on Giwa Army Barracks. Hundreds of mostly unarmed detainees, including children, were killed in extrajudicial executions and likely buried in mass graves around the city. At the same time, there continues to be additional allegations of corruption, abuse, and misconduct throughout the Nigerian military. While some soldiers have been released or retired, there has yet to be any real or meaningful accountability for the systemic challenges that have plagued Nigeria's security forces for decades. Without addressing these problems at an institutional level, reform is merely cosmetic and will only perpetuate long-standing patterns of abuse, which could serve as propaganda for Boko Haram and other insurgent groups seeking to discredit the Nigerian government. We are concerned that the decision to proceed with this sale will empower the government to backtrack even further on its commitments to human rights, accountability, and upholding international humanitarian law, which in turn could spur greater unrest and violence, particularly in the northeastern part of the country. Accordingly, we strongly urge you to reconsider your decision to sell A-29 Super Tucano light attack aircrafts to Nigeria without any meaningful reform or any clear safeguards in place. Instead, we recommend you make clear to Abuja that the sale of these aircraft can proceed only if there is positive and measurable progress on reforming the security institutions. This development is coming at a time Igbos living in the north have started to relocate back to the southeast over fear of being attacked after a coalition of northern youths gave them a 90-day quit notice. Though the directive has now been rescinded, barely a week ago, the coalition of northern youths had given all Igbos resident in the north a 3-month directive to vacate the region, and also asked Hausas in the east to return back to their places of origin.